Hey everybody, it's Aaron here with Duffy, and we are doing a retroactive look at the Halo universe. So what we're doing in each video, we are going to go over each Halo video game that has come out, the main ones, and kind of relive the tale. We'll play it, as you can see on screen, and we'll probably go ahead and give you a good breakdown of each one and what we feel now about each game. Now, the Halo games have come out in a little off order, so we actually decided to go in chronological order of the storyline. So that actually puts Halo Reach first. So that came out in September 14th of 2010.
Wow, has it
About
really been that long?
Yeah, dude, it's been 10 years almost. Actually, no, 11
Wow.
years almost now since Halo Reach has come out. And so starting this video off, I want to ask, so almost 11 years ago now, what did you first think of when Halo Reach came out? If you can remember that far back, man.
Back then I was probably just excited about the guns and the new stuff that they were adding. It's like they took the formula of Halo 3 and Halo Reach was the evolution of that. You got a lot more of those armor abilities and those different features they got. And
Mhm.
you can kind of see Bungie kind of trying to really give the franchise a send off in the sense that this would be the last game that they would have their hands on.
Right.
Um, but back then, I was probably just excited about all the cool features, the guns and the story. I was a little probably taken aback at the fact that I wasn't going to play as Master Chief, but as a kid, I think I remembered that there was a lot of different events that probably occurred throughout the game that I didn't fully grasp or understand the way that I think we did playing it again.
Yeah. And I think I agree with you on that because, gosh, 11 years ago, I didn't have my kiddo still. She wasn't there yet. Well, actually, no, she would have been there a few months when it came out. So yeah, like I remember just being excited that this was, like you said, Bungie's send off. This was the final curtain call, the final everything for them, and I felt like when I first played it, they were trying to throw everything at it in the kitchen sink, and some of it didn't stick with me back then. Some of it did, but I think this playthrough helped me remember how much I really do like Reach.
Exactly.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
So, starting off, the first thing I want to say, because I know we have a lot of notes, I guess, where do you want to start first? Let's go with that.
Well, kind of going back to what we were just talking about, one thing I noticed was the idea that I thought I understood about the game when I played it all that time ago versus playing it again now, like you were saying.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like I got an entirely different impression of the game playing it again now through, I guess we'll say wiser eyes and just more knowledge about maybe what they actually meant when you would see certain scenes and interactions between the characters
Mhm.
and just the scene. One thing that really stood out to me was the understanding of what the game was actually about. Like most games, right? You always feel like the character you play as, Noble
Right.
Six, was the center stage, but it actually wasn't. In my opinion, kind of looking and revisiting the game again, I got the impression that Noble Six and all of the other Spartans that you are in the game are not even important. They're not. They're sort of they play a backseat to the main piece that drives the whole game, which was the scene and the planet Reach itself.
Right.
That was, I think, the main point of the whole story. That you're just um, a passenger along for the ride. And revisiting and kind of seeing a lot of those scenes, it reinforces that time and time again as there are multiple cutscenes
Mhm.
throughout the game where none of the characters really speak and they just let the game show you instead of telling you and narrating like some of the later Halo franchises have done or the later games. Instead, that they just show you the scene of the planet being changed throughout the entire game and it's all about the planet.
Yeah. And I think I agree with you on that one. To me, this is also the first real one that you are a Spartan. You're still one of the best soldiers in the military, but no matter what, you're losing. Even when you think you win, you're still losing. And I think that's different than we got in Halos 1, 2, and 3, and even ODST to a point, is that you're never really losing. Like every time Master Chief was done with the mission, you're victorious. You're one step closer to the end. You know, this one, it's you're one step closer to your end because we both have read the books. We know at the end of this story, no one's making it out alive. And
Right.
I think that's one thing I like about it. And I think this one too sold the war aspect a lot more. I mean, maybe Halo 3 came in close with that one too, but I think Reach showed off that, like, you're really part of a giant war going on. Where, like, Halo 1, it's like, yeah, you're just a super soldier running around. Even Halo 2 was kind of that same way.
But you do kind of get the feeling of I kind of felt like Reach did in some aspects harken back to the original game for Halo 1 Combat Evolved,
Hmm.
because you really get that sense, at least for me, that there was a feeling of hopelessness, that you're fighting against incredible odds. At Reach
Right.
more so because you're truly seeing Covenant in full force, but that regardless of what you accomplish, the player in a lot of ways is meant to feel small in the grand scheme of things. And that, I think, in a way, is when Halo is at its purest form. I think people enjoy feeling like when they play as the Chief, that they are fighting to save humanity and that you're such a small character, yet you can have an impact. But in the grand scheme of things, this is war. It's
Yeah.
huge. He may win in all these battles and save humanity at key moments, and he's lucky, but it's a huge impossible feat, and
Yeah.
I think Reach kind of makes you feel that, especially with their world environments and how much more they opened it up. There's many times where you're flying in the Pelican and they're just taking you around for a little scenic trip, and you're seeing all these other battles going on, these skirmishes, warthogs on the ground getting destroyed.
Hmm.
And you really get that sense that yeah, you're doing a whole bunch, but that sense of hopelessness is really real.
Yeah, and I think I forgot what mission it is where we're flying around in the Hornets and you're kind of having to go to place to place to place to
Yes.
activate everything. And like you said, you see that whole background. The city's on fire or it's gone.
They're just glassing the planet, yeah, in the background.
Yeah, and I think that scene sold it for me. Where I'm like, yep, we're not making it out. Like I know we're not, even though we're Spartans, and I'm have hope that we might. But it's like I've read the book. Nobody survives this. Everyone's gonna die.
Yeah.
So going with that, so we kind of I guess we should set the plot a little bit too. Reach is the one of it's basically Earth for humans, and we're trying to keep the Covenant away from it, but they're there and they're taking it out. It's one of the military strongholds in the Halo universe, essentially for the humans, and it's gone. It's going to be gone at the end of the story, and we follow the Noble team, which you play Noble 6. You have was it Jorge, uh, or George, right? It's George,
Yeah. You
Cat,
got June,
June.
Carter, Emil, and Noble Six, I
Mm-hmm.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're Noble 6. And then so you're running around. So I like the fact that it's a squad of Spartans. This is the first time we actually had that.
Right.
So I don't know. What did you think of? I guess let's go with those guys first. What did you think of each character?
So for me, I thought it was really unique. A lot of people that I've heard in the past have kind of said that this is one of the gripes they had with the game, that each Spartan wasn't very developed. But again, I don't playing it again. I realized that they were not the centerpiece of the whole game. They were just
Exactly.
passengers along for the ride, because each character was just part of the real element of the world. And like June, the sniper in the game, I always saw him as he was roguish, kind of quiet, but he always had that feeling of having your back. There were lots of moments, especially towards the end, when you got to play with the other remaining Spartans of the team, where he would make funny comments. Or there was a scene where they were picking up munitions from an outpost,
Mm-hmm.
and there was I think, some other humans that were there already before you, and they were picking up snipers. And June was like, "Hey, where'd you get that? Those are government issue." And they were like, "We found them." And then June's like, "Oh, we're just here to collect," because they were stolen weapons, and he was just there to use them. Carter, the leader of the team, I think for me, a lot of these characters were perfect. They were so unique and different from each other, but in a way, they all complemented each other.
Mm-hmm.
He was calm under pressure, decisive, and he kept others together. However, Kat was almost like their secondary, because anytime Kat and Carter went at it together, she was sort of the fierce, driven person and a little sassy at times. Uh, but for me, I honestly felt like I liked George the most. He was definitely the definition of being a gentle giant. He was,
Yeah.
I think, the most passionate, or at least outwardly passionate, of the Spartans. And him and Emil, in the beginning, they seemed to have like some issues with each other, but they always got over it like a family.
Hmm.
And Emil was kind of like the psychotic one. He's just always cared about battle.
Yeah. And
But yeah.
and I know when you read the books and get more lore from Emil, he has that skull looking thing carved on his helmet, but it's actually, I think it's like every kill he's ever done or something, and it forms that skull the way he makes it.
Yeah, he puts like scratches, right? Something like that on his visor.
Yeah, and it's not that people are like, oh, well, how can you see? But it's not. It's like superficial. I don't know how he does it, because they're there from his knife, but he can still see through it, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, that's weird. I forgot how they explain he sees through it, but I think for me, the funny thing, the ones I like the most are actually June and Cat. June, because I love being the sniper. You know, when we used to all play Halo back in the day, I was always back in the back somewhere sniping everybody.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the part where, like you said, these are government issued. Where'd you get them? What, are you gonna throw us in jail? Nah, we're just gonna take them back. And I'm like, yeah, that would be me. Like, I don't care. I just want my ammo now for my gun. And Kat I liked because she was kind of the tech one, and like you said, kind of the fierce driven one, and very much like, yeah, I don't care if I'm breaking rules. I want to know what's inside this thing, and I'm gonna do it because, well, why not? And I think we saw that when she tried to access Haley's file, Halsey's files,
Mhm.
because Halsey comments. Noticed the moment you're in it, it sends me an alert or something like that, and I'm like, yeah, I would have tried that too. Why not?
Yeah, and not just that, but how they were detailed. A lot of the Spartans, not only were they unique in personality, but in their armor as well. I think, this was
Mm-hmm.
one of the first Halos where they really dived into that. It kind of even showed you some of the more deeper relationships that they had with their armor and with Halsey as well. Like there was a scene where I think they first meet Halsey when they're rescuing her from the facility, and she says that she still has more work to do. And George, I think in the movie, in The Fall of Reach, when he's a kid, he has a special relationship with Halsey.
Yeah.
And it's kind of displayed here in the game where he's like, Mom. And then she tells him, What have you done with my armor? And
Mm-hmm.
like a little kid being scolded, he's like, well, just a few modifications. But I love how this is another thing in the game that I've noticed too is Bungie really tries to enforce the idea that less is more.
Yeah.
Multiple times throughout those scenes, there's not a lot of narrative. They don't always talk, especially getting into the events that occur in the game to each Spartan as they lose. I mean, take for example, when Kat is unfortunately shot. I think it shows that the game isn't really all about that the class of a Spartan. That not every soldier is going to die in some grandiose way. They don't
Yeah.
all medals of honor and valor in the field. Like we're used to seeing that, the hero or the one of the big characters dies in this crescendo of events like we're used to seeing in video games.
Yeah.
Show you, multiple times for each Spartan that war is brutal, it's shitty, it's unforgiving, it's grueling,
Mm-hmm.
and that the deaths of those Spartans reflect that. They all die in ways that just feel like they were lacking. Um, and you see that a lot. And like when Kat gets shot, the Spartans don't say anything. The
Yeah.
next thing that they just show is the ruined city. It's on fire. Noble Six just puts out a flare, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just waiting, and the music takes control of the whole scene and lets you feel the events that just occurred. And they do that multiple times. When George is out, you're in an open field,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I think they really wanted to drive the less is more idea. I think.
And I think you're right. And then again, reading the books, and I think it gets commented in one of the Halo games. I don't remember, but Spartans never die. I mean, that's the whole thing. They're always wounded in action or MIA missing in action. They're never KIA. And I think that's something. If you read the books and you know about stuff like that, this is one of the first times if you didn't play Halo Wars, obviously, which is still canon but not part of the stuff. You never see a Spartan die because you see Master Chief, and that's it. And now here's this elite group who are just as good as Master Chief, and she was sniped in the head, and that's it. She's done. It's not. There is no respawn or coming back. It's like you're gone.
Yeah, and another thing that I noticed too is again I think you're really meant to just be along for the ride of the story of Reach.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know? Do you remember that in almost also in a lot of the cutscenes, a lot of it is told through cameras and surveillance footage. You notice
Yeah.
that where there's lots of times where something is going on in the game and they cut away to a camera or like in the very last scene, which I think was just unique, where you have this survive and that's it. You're the last one alive where the
Mm-hmm.
story is being told by through your helmet. You don't really ever get to see the falling of that character, but you just see the events occurring through the camera and the helmet. You don't ever actually see yourself take control through the eyes of Noble Six. And
Right.
I thought that was also another really interesting way to sort of separate you as even you as a player are again a passenger to Noble Six, which is just people experiencing the events of Reach as it
Yeah.
deteriorates and falls apart throughout the story of the game.
And that's true. I mean, I never thought about it until you said that. That a lot of this stuff is cutaway shots. It's not from the squad aspect. It's from, like you said, another camera somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's true. And it's interesting because at this point too, I think the very beginning of the game we have Carter talking to him, and he says, I know you've been a lone wolf. I know you've done all these black op missions kind of things, and I've seen the stuff I'm not supposed to see. And again, kind of emphasizing that you're a badass. You're not supposed to be some lonely lackey that's gonna die. But then at the very end of the game, that's like you said, that's what it is. It's you're following along with the story of Reach and of what's happening, and yeah, at the end of the day, you're done.
And I like how, in a lot of ways, they went out. There was a lot of antithesis to the characters themselves and their namesakes. George always said well, he was around in the game that the last thing he would ever want to do is stay on Reach. He always wanted to go somewhere else. But then when
Mm-hmm.
he died, he was happy and he said that he would stay on Reach. Um, you know, Kat was always trying to be vigilant and she got shot. Emil went out in battle.
Mm-hmm.
Carter took a sacrifice for the team. Noble Six, codenamed Lone Wolf, he went out in the same way, I think.
Yeah,
So
and
I
that's
thought that was
true.
really interesting too.
And that's really true. And we don't. At the end of this game, we also don't know whatever happened to June. Unless I think he is still alive in the stories in the books, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I have to check that. But and like I think you said it perfectly with the music. I want to just touch on that because this is well. Did Martin O'Donnell work on 4?
hmm
Okay.
Yes, yeah, the music, incredible. Like Marty O'Donnell always, he does incredible. And I think in this game, just like I think wasn't there a previous entry before this one, Halo ODST, right, with
Yeah,
Salvatore and all
ODST.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that game I think had some of the greatest music I've ever heard in the Halo franchise, but Reach had some incredible pieces where, and I like how Halo does that. They don't like a lot of the games. They feel the need to surround you with music and ambiance and everything you do, but there are times where you're just starting out a mission and they might play a little bit to get you going and it really fits the narrative and then it just stops and it's quiet and all you hear is ambient sounds. You hear wind and you hear the rustling of leaves, or if you're opening into a large area you can hear the whole gapeness of the area, but then there's no music. It's like they save it or they use it at the ideal time, and I think he's always been great at that. I think Marty's music is phenomenal, and I think it always works in perfect unison with the elements and things that are going on in the game. I always I love the moments when the music starts because I just think that that's when the game is at its best.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think out of all the games, I think I loved the last three: Halo 3, ODST, and Reach for the music. ODS or Halo 3 had the E sharp sound. ODST was very like that ambient sound, and Reach is right there with it. And I think Reach almost tops it for me because this, even for Martin, I don't know if he knew if he was going to do any more after this. I'm not sure if he was always scheduled to go on to Halo 4 because he was part of Bungie at the time. He was working for them.
Yeah,
So maybe
I think didn't he like consult, right, or something?
I can't remember on 4. I don't remember if it's him or not. To be honest with you, if he's the same composer or not, and because I know after 4, he was done. He had a falling out with 343, and he was just gone. He was like, I'm done with it.
Yeah,
So
that's what I heard too. I just wasn't sure if he consulted maybe a little or something.
he might have consulted on 4 a little bit, but That would have been it.
For Halo Infinite, I did I looked into some of the new composers, and
Mhm.
they have some pretty good, interesting music behind them. Some of them had some like Chrono Trigger experience, and I think one of the composers also did a lot of the music for Ori, I think, and the Ori and the Blind Forest of the Blind Wisps. I think, man, I forget the title of that game, but he did a lot of music for that, and that game has incredible music. So that does kind of, hopefully, it makes me feel pretty comfortable that I think they can pull it off. I think they can get some really great music, and hopefully fit what fans expect for the franchise.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you on that one. Just I don't know. I love this. I think I realized after this, this is probably like my third time, maybe fourth altogether that I've played through the entire campaign. And I think this last time is just it's really connected to me. Maybe because like I knew we were gonna do this. I don't know. I think I just don't know. I like it though. I'm at like a
Well,
loss right now because I'm like I don't know.
one thing that was really interesting is I didn't know that out of all of the Halos, Halo Reach was the first one to really implement these mechanics that apparently, see, I thought it was something unique to the Master Chief collection that we played it on, where they took a lot of the ideas and they gave you like daily and weekly challenges, a cool way for you to customize your Spartan and then replay it again with a flaming skull or lightning around your whole armor and just looking like a badass.
Yeah.
That apparently isn't new. That I guess I forgot this, but Halo Reach added this where they give you character customization, where you get different events and daily challenges, where you can play any of the 6 Halo games included in the Halo Master Chief Collection, and it'll say, headshot 100 grunts, and if you do that, you get a point. You can use these points to then unlock special customizations like a flaming warthog with an awesome paint job that then you can
Yes.
see throughout the whole game playing. And I think that is absolutely amazing. The Master Chief Collection is one of the best purchases I've ever made. And yeah, I'm just now learning about this, that it can apply to all the games, and it has revitalized my need to want to play through every single one of them again and again and again.
I think I still love. I think what was it? The samurai one that you got. Like I think if you like pre-ordered the game or something.
Oh yes,
I think
dude.
I stuck with that one. I don't think I ever switched, even though I wanted to. I was like, I just love it.
It's such. I mean, they could just do so much with that. I think expanding the universe and showing that there's different Mjolnir, like suits and different generations of Spartan suits. I think it's really cool. I think it really opens up the player's ability to customize and kind of make each Spartan feel like their own.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you 100% on that because in this one, I think was the first one where like you said, you did feel like you're a unique Spartan. You are you. So I think I really like that aspect. You had the sword, the samurai, because I remember that was like the pre-order one you got, and then I remember there was one that was like the plague mask or helmet where it was like a little black cloud around you, and like you said,
Hmm.
lightning. But I did like even the smallest detail. You could change the color of the visor, and I'm
Yeah.
like, that's so minuscule. But I want red, so I put it like red or blue, one of the two, I
The
think.
one that I'm trying to unlock is this visor that has like a prismatic screen. It's like multicolor with stars in it. It looks like you're looking at the galaxy or like space. It looks awesome.
Exactly. That's so cool looking, and I think that was one of the best features they had in the multiplayer and everything else. So going forward, I mean, what else do you think about this one? So we can start. I guess we should start wrapping it up because I mean, again, this was it's an older game. It's still one of my favorites, and we are still going to be talking about the next one, of course, after this. Chronological order will be Halo Combat Evolved, so we're going to jump into that one, and I think we'll play the anniversary
Question
one.
for you though
Yeah.
is, do you think that Halo Reach withstands the test of time? If we play it again
Ooh.
in another 10 years, will it still feel the same? Do you think that the way that they utilized the technology of its day can withstand the test of time and still feel as great as it did
Hmm.
then, as it did today, as it did 10 years from now, as it might?
You know, I mean, the only thing I would say is in maybe 10 years the graphics will be a little bit off,
Hmm.
but overall I think it does. The story was solid. The gameplay is still solid. The buttons, I don't like the default button setting, but you can always adjust that.
Yeah,
But I
that was
think,
one thing I had an issue with too.
yeah, I think we both say because it's like what, like left bumpers or left right bumpers, like
The
your
right bumper
sprint.
was your, yeah,
It was like
it was
really
your reload, I think, right?
something. Yeah, it was really weird. And I'm
It
like,
felt odd.
yeah, I don't know what they were trying to do with that part, but yeah, you can adjust that. But overall, I think it can stand the test of time. I mean, at least now, 10 years later, I was still happy playing the story. So I can imagine 10 more years, the story could still be held up. Now, graphics may downgrade by that point because it'll be 20 years old, but, maybe they'll do a remaster of it.
Yeah, for sure. And who knows, maybe then I'll have a whole different mindset when I come towards playing the game. But for me, it's like I got so much more out of the game than I ever would have as a kid because just playing it again. I mean, I remember on the third mission in Halo Reach, there's a point in the game that it's like if you look into it, somebody spent the time, someone, a developer, a creator somewhere was planning these details, hoping that someone will replay their game and that they will see things that they intended as visions, as points in the game. Like there's a foreshadowing where off in the distance they make a comment. There's a huge anvil cloud storm coming, and it's moving in quickly. They make a
Mm-hmm.
comment of it that there's a storm coming in, and it's like foreshadowing. Like it helps you see that there's some events to come, and that you feel like you're involved in something greater. And again, constantly throughout the game, you just feel like a little gear in or a cog in a larger machine, treading through events. And I really loved that about the game, and I think more games should do that. I think more games, um, like I know when we get to it, but Halo 5, for example, I think the narrator spent too much time, maybe telling you what was going on rather than letting the players just experience it or showing you what was going on. And I loved that about Halo Reach.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you on that one. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because Halo 5 has its issues, and I'm trying to separate those issues to say anything, but it's hard because
Yeah,
it's
for
like
sure.
it has a lot of issues.
It'll be fun when we get there. I know.
I know it will be, but I think overall, like you said, it's a very solid game, and I think yes, at times I think Bungie threw everything they had and everything they could at it, but I think it was worth it. I think it was the payout in the end. Like this is the game I think that if you're a Halo fan and you've loved Halo for those 10 years, well now it's like what 20 years something plus. Um you you remember 2001 coming out and then 9 years later we're getting Halo Reach. You remember everything. It's like you've been playing these games for almost 10 years at that point, and this was the swan song, and
It
it
was.
was
I mean,
it
a
was
lot of the
beautiful.
stuff that happened in it was laying the groundwork. Halo 5 as of today and the current, latest gen of, online multiplayer, Halo Reach was the one that brought in all new defining gameplay mechanics. You had flight, I mean, that was another thing we didn't touch on. In Halo Reach, holy crap, they threw mechanics at you. Every game or every stage, you just got to do something different. It's like they were almost demoing or testing all the potential futures for the game. I mean, you got to fly in
Yes.
all new vehicles, you had space flight. I mean, it felt like you were freaking playing Rogue Squadron, just doing aerials upside down. Gravity didn't matter, and you were fighting around a Mac cannon and an orbital turret. You had boots on the ground combat. You played as a lone wolf. You have armor abilities. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, you even had places where you were like jumping in low gravity space, and it was insane. They truly threw the kitchen sink at you and like, hey, we have some more. Here you go, try it out. And those features have defined the later Halos. It's like that was the intention of the variety of gameplay mechanics that they saw as, as a. Admittedly, they need some tweaking in some of the later games, but I think this game was like a root of what the future of Halo could be and is today.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that the armor ability thing did help. I think the later games, and I think it made people realize because we never had sprint until Halo Reach, and
Yeah.
then Halo 4 is like, here we'll just give you sprint instead of having it be an armor ability. You can just run.
I know. Like when replaying it again, it was our first one coming back into this. I was like, "Hey, what's going on? If I hit down on the left thumbstick, nothing happens." You're so used to a lot of the modern day shooters that you're like, What's going on? I can't run."
Right? It's like, what do you mean there's no sprint? What do you mean I need an armor? I don't want that though. I want to be able to fly or go invisible or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it gives a lot of variety, and I thought that was another really great feature in the game.
Yeah, I think I agree with that because it really was. It really it added that little bit, and like you said, this laid the groundwork for 4 and 5. Yes, 5 is considered one of the worst ones, but there's still aspects from this game that are in there that I think we needed. You know, you had the full squad of Spartans in there too, and maybe the new one with Infinite will fix some of that. Who knows? I don't know,
The
but
AI was good too. You know, even like playing in different difficulties, I think the AI was very similar to like Halo 1. I think arguably Halo 1 has the best scaling AI where it really feels like it's a great gradual change in difficulties.
mm-hmm.
And I think Halo Reach has the perfection of like Halo 3's AI and the continuation of that, where I think it feels like you can truly feel that every enemy type, because mind you, there's a bunch. I mean, thinking about that as a programmer, about how much work probably went into making sure that every creature had their own movements, their own logic,
Yes,
and they nailed it. You don't feel that brutes, the way that they move at you in a pragmatic way, dodging or strafing side to side when they're carrying a hammer, or different sort of body language from elites, or how they will take advantage of their superior shields and how they take more hits than you, or grunts and how they know that they can just swarm you, or they're suicidal with. I mean, it's just so much stuff. I mean, we could go on and on and on about how they really made sure to ensure they ensured that the variety in AI was unique enough to where you didn't feel like you were fighting the same, flock mentality and programming.
yes,
Just lock onto you and they make their way towards you. They had different tactics, and you felt that when they were, especially when they were fighting together with brutes, elites, and grunts, and jackals, and you name it, and flying. I forget the name of those creatures, but they were all different, and I loved that about that as well.
yeah, and I think I agree, especially the part where I just want to talk about real quick, where we turn the corner and that creature's fighting the Covenant. I can't remember the name of it. Those huge, big, huge, like ape-looking ones, I guess. And
Yeah.
I remember on one of my playthroughs, I was able to walk around them and just let the Covenant handle it. And then I think on another playthrough, the Covenant killed it somehow, and I'm like, oh, I think it's because I was playing on Legendary or Hard, and that's the only time they can actually kill it. And you're right though; it's like everything's happening differently. Like the hunters are acting different than what they normally would, the grunts, elites, etc. And they're all doing their own thing, kind of thing. And it's like, I like this. I like how they're all
Not to
acting.
mention, like they take chances on difficulty. Like if you're playing on normal, it's a pretty balanced game. On
Mm-hmm.
heroic, grunts don't just run away from you. They're a little more brazen. And then on legendary, they literally laugh in your face. Elites know they're superior. They know
Mm-hmm.
that they can just take you down, and they show you. They take advantage of their advantages that they have in technology and movement and numbers, and it's awesome. I think, you really feel like that's another thing. I mean, the tuning of being able to not only have uniquely programmed AI, but also making that to where they take different approaches to combat on different difficulties. It's
Yeah,
impressive, really is.
you're right, and I think you got that perfectly right because every difficulty is just a whole different play. It's always going to act differently because, like you said, they know at that point, yeah, I'm better. Or, at that point it's on easy. Oh, we're gonna run. But like legendary. Why are we running again? Nah, we're just gonna put a few rounds in you and see what happens. And your
Yeah,
shields can't take it very much.
like jackals with snipers. Like, oh my god,
Uh,
I know. I think every player uniquely remember Halo 2 and just be like, jackals with snipers on legendary. Sweet baby Jesus.
I forgot
Wow.
who I played it
Why?
with, but you're right. We remember. I remember. There's a hallway I remember that still traumatizes me today.
Yeah, it's like, why? Why did you put these creatures in the game? Why?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Especially it's like when your respawn is like right before you get shot, and it's like, okay, I know right where he is. Every time I step around this corner, he snipes me in the head.
I know you feel like they sometimes like spawn camp you or something.
They really do. I remember there was one because it was on legendary. We would die and we would spawn. And it's like if I take a step around this corner, I'm dead. So I had to keep trying to like jump around or like strafe or something different just to take the hit to the body. Where I was like, oh, I'm barely alive. I'm gonna just sit here until my partner can do something else about this guy.
Yeah, you would just let Sergeant Johnson, who's immortal, just go and shoot a shotgun at 1,000 yards and just hope that over time he'll kill him. And that's what I would do sometimes when I just couldn't get past like a swarm of jackals with snipers.
Yep, exactly. So on that note, rating wise, let's go 1 out of 5. What do you give this game in the Halo? Just comparing it to the Halo games. Where do you put
Oh,
this one?
5. Yeah.
5. Okay,
Yeah.
I would agree. 5 is up there for this one for me too. So on that note, guys, we will end this here, and of course, we will be doing every game. So the next one that I can talk today. We will be reviewing is Halo Combat Evolved. I think we even say we did most of these on. We're gonna do these on normal, but we might do Halo Combat Evolved on a harder setting, just because
For
I think we
sure.
played
Yeah.
that one way too many times to do
Yeah.
anything lower. So make sure you guys follow us on our podcasts anywhere you want to listen to us on official Get Your Geek On. You go follow our page at official GYGO, and hopefully you enjoyed the gameplay and what we said about this. And Halo Infinite comes out sometime holiday 2021, so this year. So can't wait to play it.
Exciting.
But
Yeah.
on that note, guys, I'm Aaron. That's Duffy, and get your geek on and stay geeky, guys.